Hey everyone, welcome back to Cars and Zebras. Today I have another featured drag race, so I sure hope that you enjoy it. If you do find it entertaining, make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel because I do post these videos regularly, and also make sure to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. I do appreciate you watching, and with that said, let's check out our featured drag race. This is a 1965 Pontiac GTO, and it is gorgeous! Oh, I wish you guys could see this car in person. It is phenomenal. And of course, the video, it just doesn't do it any justice. That's why you guys got to come out to the Pure Stock Muscle Car Drag so you can see these things in person. But enough about that. I know what you're thinking. Well, Cars and Zebras, sure, yeah, it's a great looking car and it's a GTO. Those are really cool. But what makes it so special? Is it maybe a tri-power car? And you're right, it is a tri-power car. But there's more to it than that. This car is far more special. It is actually a Royal Bobcat GTO. Yes, a Royal Bobcat out of Royal Pontiac in Royal Oak, Michigan, the original high-performance Pontiac dealer. That is delicious. Why don't we all take a second to go change our pants real quick? But how about let's take a step back. 1965 was a fantastic year for the GTO and one of my personal favorite years. The tri-power cars were absolute monsters. 360 horsepower at 5,200 RPM and 424 pound-feet of torque at 3,600 RPM. That breathing through 3 Rochester 2-barrel carburetors and a compression ratio of 10.75 to 1. But this isn't any regular old tri-power GTO, this is a Royal Bobcat. And Royal Pontiac made quite a few changes to increase the power output of these cars. This includes installing a larger jet in the center carburetor to actually match the jets of the other 2 carburetors. They even changed out to mechanical throttle linkage to improve throttle response. The heads were then milled down 0.30 inches, and they even put thinner gaskets on there to increase the compression ratio to at least 11 to 1, but more like 11.23 to 1. A different intake manifold was even installed to block hot water passage to the manifold to decrease its temperature, and therefore, when you got your air fuel coming in, it's much more dense. A distributor recurve kit was installed, as was Champion spark plugs, and then to increase redline from 5,500 to 6,000 RPM, they even added adjustable lock nuts on the rocker arm studs to prevent fasteners from coming loose. And to leave no stone unturned, Royal Pontiac even installed a different fan to free up some horsepower that was lost spinning the old one. And yes, this increased the risk of overheating during everyday driving, but really, who gives a shit when you are the fastest car at the drag strip? All said and done, these changes accounted for at least a 30 to 40 horsepower gain, and Car Life even tested this car. They took the regular old tri-power GTO and it ran 0 to 60 in 5.8 seconds and the quarter mile in 14.52 seconds at 100 miles per hour. Not too shabby. But then they installed all of the absolutely succulent Royal Bobcat goodies, and that mother ran the quarter mile in 14 flat at 102 miles per hour. That means the Royal Bobcat was a half a second quicker in the quarter mile. And you know what? The owner of this car is a fantastic drag racer, so I bet we're gonna see times even better than that. There were a few transmissions available in the GTO that year. The standard was actually a 3-speed manual, but not too many cars came with that. Most of them featured the 4-speed manual or the 2-speed automatic, which they had termed the Super Turbine. This car features the 4-speed manual. I just don't know if it's a close ratio or not. There were a lot of different rear gear ratios available to destroy those rear tires, as low as a 308, as high as a 390, and then dealer installed options included 411 gears or 433 gears. This car is coming with 410 gears. Kerb weight of the 1965 Pontiac GTO was around 3,600 pounds. This car was weighing in at 3,688 pounds. The starting price of a GTO in 1965 was around $2,800. Accounting for inflation, that would be around $22,000 today, but keep in mind this car is tri-power and it is a Royal Bobcat, so it would have cost quite a bit more back then. Pontiac was extremely successful in selling the GTO in 1965, that being just over 75,000 units. And if you're wondering how many of those were tri-power cars, just over 20,000, so not that shabby. The GTO back then got about 9 miles per gallon, and prices today are extremely varied. There are a lot of these cars that are faked, so if you can find a real one that's even in decent shape, expect at least the high $30,000 range, with better examples getting into the $50,000 range. Tri-power cars are going to be a little bit more, and if you can even find a tri-power Royal Bobcat, I mean, I don't know. Good luck. That's all I can say. Being a Pontiac, there were several very interesting options for this car. One that caught my eye was aluminum front drums for the brakes. I didn't even know that existed back then. But there's another really cool dealer-installed option, and this car actually features it. It's already been shown, but maybe you missed it. It's very subtle. Let's take another look at that engine bay. Yes, this car features the optional Ram Air package that was installed by the dealership. I mean, come on! How could this car get any cooler than that? 65 GTO, Royal Bobcat, Ram Air. I mean, this is one of the coolest cars I have ever seen, and I cannot thank the owner enough for still driving this thing and letting all of us see that monster just hit the drag strip. Of course, though, the Pontiac has an opponent, and let's take a look at which car that might be. This is a 1970 AMC Amx, and if you didn't know, that actually stood for American Motors Experimental. The AMX unfortunately had a rather short lifespan, that being only 3 model years, 1968, 1969, and 1970. People classify the AMX as a muscle car, but it's really not. I mean, it's kind of a mix of a sports car. It's just a 2-seater, and the wheelbase is only 97 inches. So if you've ever seen these in person, they are actually very small cars. But what it lacks in wheelbase, it more than makes up for in character. So how about we get into some of the specs? There were only 2 engines available in the 1970 AMX. The first being 360 cubic inches and rated 285 horsepower. Not bad, but you know what? This car doesn't feature the lowly 360. This car has the thunderous 390 cubic inch fire-breathing monster. We're talking 325 horsepower at 4,800 RPM, 430 pound-feet of torque at 3,200 RPM, a compression ratio of 10.2 to 1, and in 1970, the AMX had changed from a Carter 4-barrel to a Motorcraft 4-barrel. It even had forged connecting rods, a forged crank, and then to eliminate wheel hop, it had trailing arms that functioned like traction bars. And all AMXs with the 390 came with dual exhaust. Yeah, that is what I'm talking about. There were only a couple transmissions available. The first was a 3-speed automatic, which was termed the Shift Command automatic, but this car has the 4-speed manual, that being from Borg Warner with a Hurst shifter. There were quite a few rear gear ratios available. The standard was a 354. This car is screaming at a 411 gear. The AMX definitely has a weight advantage over the GTO. Kerb weight was only around 3,100 pounds. This car is coming in at just over 3,400 pounds. Price for the AMX in 1970 was about $3,400, which wasn't too bad. Adjusting for inflation would be about $22,000 today, so very similar to the GTO. However, if you wanted the highly coveted Go package, which included a functional hood scoop, front disc brakes, and heavy-duty suspension, that was going to be another $383. In 1969, Motor Trend actually tested the AMC AMX. Now that car had a 354 gear and it ran 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds and the quarter mile in 14.68 seconds at 92 miles per hour. But remember, that was testing a 1969 car. In 1970, they went to a superior carburetor and they improved the flow of the heads. And our featured car has much more aggressive gearing, so I suspect it's going to be just a little bit quicker than what Motor Trend got in 1969. The AMX with the 390 engine was rated around 10 miles per gallon, and prices today for a good example are in the $30,000 range. For extremely clean cars, expect between $40,000 and $50,000. There are a couple really cool facts about the 1970 AMX. The first being that in 1970, the Magnum 500 wheels were standard, or you could get the machine slot style wheels like this car has as an option. In an industry first, the AMX featured an injection molded one-piece dashboard, and it even had a thinner and safer windshield that would crumble upon impact. And then lastly, you could even get a leather interior in 1970 for the price of $34. But enough talk, let's see what these two monsters can do at the drag strip today. Did he?
Bruce Hayes, longtime racer here. 65 GTO Ford 389 Tri-Power, 360 horsepower going against this 1970 AMC Amx owned by Joe Pixano. Bruce Hayes in the 1965 GTO Tri-Power car versus Joe Pixano of Tecumseh, Michigan in the AMX 390. Up next, the 390 AMX, left lane. From 1970, they had a facelift. The tail lights were restocked a little bit. They were not wraparounds anymore. Now they're segmented.
Again, thanks for watching, I really appreciate it. Please make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future drag race videos. And of course, I'll see you at the next one.